So Dave Portnoy, this is the problem with being corporately funded. So Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy had to announce on Wednesday that one of their popular hosts, a guy named Ben Mintz, was fired from the company after he said a racial slur accidentally while reading rap lyrics on a live stream earlier this week. So he made the mistake of, he was on a live stream, and he was reading the rap lyrics. And as he went through the rap lyrics, I believe he used the N-word.
Get some yayo, double up, Nick.
Reading rap lyrics. And Barstool's parent company, Penn Entertainment, forced Portnoy to fire him. The entire Barstool team was against this. Barstool CEO Erica Nardini and longtime talent Dan Katz said that he made an honest mistake. Mintz tweeted this morning, I made an unforgivable mistake, slipping on air while reading a song lyric. It's not an unforgivable mistake. It's just a normal mistake. I'm sorry. The only thing that makes a mistake unforgivable is when people are unforgiving and jackasses. He clearly did not mean, he wasn't calling somebody the N-word. He was reading a lyric.
Never let me slip, because if I slip, then I'm slipping.
He said, I meant no harm. I've never felt worse about anything. I apologize for my actions. I'm truly sorry and ashamed of myself. Honestly, we get more abject apologies in American culture for somebody accidentally saying the N-word while reading rap lyrics than we do from actual murderers and rapists in our society. It's an amazing thing. Penn acquired 36% of Barstool Sports from the Chernin Group for $163 million in early 2020, and they bought the remainder of the company for an additional $388 million this past February. Portnoy said that the parent company made the call to fire Mintz over concern the incident could jeopardize regulatory gambling licenses across the country. How? What does that have to do with regulatory gambling licenses? Exactly. Penn paid a lot of money for Barstool, said Portnoy. They have to make the best decisions to protect their business. I trust and respect Jay Snowden, who's the Penn CEO, and he's doing what he thinks is right. Doesn't mean I'll always agree, but he deals with things I don't have to think about.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
They believe there's a chance a lot of states could pull their licenses because of that. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's corporate cowardice by Penn right there. I feel bad for Portnoy in the sense that, he made a business deal. Once those strings are attached, though, the strings are attached. And that is a stupid and ugly situation, obviously. Okay, other controversial comments getting people in trouble.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
A person named PK Subban, who is apparently a hockey commentator of some sort, he got himself in trouble the other day. Why? Because he made a joke about Lizzo. You are not allowed to joke about Lizzo. She is one of the great artists of our time and also the most beautiful woman alive. So here's PK Subban getting himself in trouble.
Very impressed by their forecheck, their battle level. Big game for
Florida. Pack a lunch.
Listen, maybe they need to pack a Lizzo-sized lunch.
And people got mad. So the good news for PK Subban is that he's black. So they won't accuse him of racism. If a white person said it, then they accuse him of racism. But some Twitter users were very upset about all of this. The 33-year-old athlete joined ESPN as a hockey analyst last fall. He hadn't addressed the controversy so far, nor should he, because there's nothing wrong with saying Lizzo-sized lunch. She is a literal fat activist who made a show on Netflix about how fat she is. Is she not fat? Are we supposed to pretend she's skinny? Her whole point is that she's fat and beautiful. He didn't even say that she's not attractive. He just said Lizzo-sized lunch. Apparently that's controversial now. Amazing what now counts as controversial. The weather is warming down here in Florida, but let's be real. It's always pretty warm down here in Florida. That means pool days with the kids and lots of grilling in the backyard. Yes. The last thing you need to be doing when you're getting ready to host guests is driving around worrying about where to refill your propane grill tank. Yes, I have done this myself. This is where Cinch saves you time and money. Cinch, C-Y-N-C-H, is a propane grill tank home delivery service. They deliver propane grill tanks directly to your door. Cinch delivers on your schedule, requires no long-term commitment or subscription. Plus, delivery is completely contactless. You don't have to wait around at home. Track the order on the Cinch app from anywhere. Whether you're grilling steaks or lighting up the patio heater on a cold night, Cinch's propane delivery service ensures you have the fuel you need to make the most of every single moment. Go online to cinch.com or download the Cinch app to order. New customers can get their first tank exchange for just $10 with promo code Shapiro. That's cinch.com or download the Cinch app. Use promo code Shapiro. Get your first tank exchange for just $10. Limited time offer. You have to live within a Cinch service area to redeem it. Visit cinch.com/offer for details. And I've actually done this. I've actually had to drive around looking for a place to get a propane tank. It's not fun. Instead, head on over to cinch.com/offer. You remember that President Trump recently issued a warning from Mar-a-Lago. Quote, our currency is crashing. We'll soon no longer be the world standard. That will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. Well, as we saw with First Republic Bank, you never know when your bank can go under. It's one reason why people are pulling their money out of regional banks and they are putting it into things like gold because they just don't trust the system. Totally understandable. Listen, I'm diversified at least a little bit into precious metals. The fact is that gold is the asset that since biblical times has withstood famine, war, political and economic upheaval. I've bought gold from Birch Gold in preparation for that uncertainty. You can trust them as well. You can own gold in a tax shelter retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. That's correct. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k, maybe from a previous employer, into an IRA in gold. The best part, you're not going to pay a penny out of pocket. When currencies fall, gold is that safe haven. You know, it's unclear which direction the dollar is going to go. But the best thing you can do, diversify. It's just smart strategy. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. Text BEN to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold again. Text BEN to 989898. So remember that time when they completely gaslit you about natural gas?
Oh my God, help me, I don't want to die.
Like, they literally gaslit you. It's amazing. So they said, why are you guys so worried that we're going to get rid of gas stoves? And there's a story suggesting that New York, the EPA, that they were considering cracking down on gas stoves. And a lot of us who like to cook were like, you know what is really hard to do? Cook well on an electric stove. I hate electric stoves with a fiery passion of 1,000 suns. They're terrible. Electric stoves do not cook the same way. They just don't. Fire is good when you're cooking things. A lot of us got rather agitated about the idea that the EPA or state governments were going to start cracking down on gas stoves. And so the entire media was like, this is just a right-wing lie. We are never coming after your gas stoves. Fast forward for like a month. New York has become the first state in the nation to pass a law banning natural gas and other fossil fuels in most new buildings, a move that could help reshape how Americans heat and cook in their homes in the coming decades. The New York legislature approved a $229 billion state budget that will prohibit natural gas hookups and other fossil fuels in most new homes and other construction, a major victory for climate activists. The move, which will likely face a court challenge from the fossil fuel industry, will serve as a test of states' power to ban fossil fuels outright, rather than simply encouraging developers to build low-carbon buildings. So what does the law do? Well, it requires all electric heating and cooking in new buildings shorter than 7 stories by 2026 and in 2029 for taller buildings. It allows exemptions for manufacturing facilities, restaurants, hospitals, and car washes, but the measure doesn't do what some climate activists had feared, give cities and counties license to override the ban. So that means that your local restaurant might still be able to use, flame cooking, but you won't be able to. All so that the environmentalists can feel super good about themselves. By the way, the notion that this is going to radically reduce carbon emissions and therefore adjust the global temperature is insane. And the amounts of carbon emissions that are saved by shifting to electric stoves from gas stoves are not measurable compared to sort of world output of carbon emissions. It's totally nuts. But Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, was very excited about it. She said, this is really big stuff, guys. This is how you transition.
We do have to transition. There are clean energy alternatives. It's going to take time. And I want to make sure that New Yorkers don't get hit hard for the cost, so we're going to roll this out. But new buildings that are going up, they can go electric, they can do heat pumps.
Man, I'm so glad they've got their priorities straight over in the state of New York and, broadly speaking, across the country. I mean, the Democrats really are on top of the things that matter. Like, for example, they're totally on top of immigration. But I mean, they're not at all. In fact, the New York Times reported last month that migrant children are being put to work across the country. What? So we now have the Biden administration presiding over a vast wave of illegal immigration that is ending with Dickensian street urchins working in the factories. It's amazing. It's amazing. These are the people who are like, we need to raise the minimum wage. We have to care for your children are my children. They're all of our children, unless they're migrant children, in which case, put them next to the fryer at McDonald's now. Go do it. According to the New York Times, in the spring of 2021, Linda Brandmiller was working at an arena in San Antonio that had been converted into an emergency shelter for migrant children. Thousands of boys were sleeping on cots as the Biden administration grappled with the record number of minors crossing into the United States without their parents. Because the Biden administration has refused to do the thing that the Trump administration did and keep families together. So instead, they decided to just release a bunch of minors into the interior with no actual guardians. Well, that ended up badly. Miss Brandmiller's job was to help vet sponsors. She'd been trained to look for possible trafficking. In her first week, 2 cases jumped out. One man told her he was sponsoring 3 boys to employ them at his construction company. Another, who lived in Florida, was trying to sponsor 2 kids who would have to work off the cost of bringing them north. Within days, she noticed one of the children was set to be released to the man in Florida. That's despite notifying the Department of Health and Human Services. She emailed the shelter manager. A few days later, her building access was revoked during her lunch break, and she was never told why she had been fired. Over the past 2 years, according to the New York Times, more than 250,000 migrant children have come alone to the United States. Thousands of those kids have ended up in punishing jobs across the country, working overnight in slaughterhouses, replacing roofs, operating machinery in factories, all in violation of child labor laws, according to a recent Times investigation. All along, there were signs of this explosive growth in the labor force and warnings that the Biden administration ignored or missed, according to the New York Times. How Xavier Becerra, head of Health and Human Services, has retained his job is beyond me because, quote unquote, veteran government staffers and outside contractors told HHS, including in reports that reached Becerra, that children appeared to be at risk. The Labor Department put out news releases noting an increase in child labor. Senior White House aides were shown evidence of exploitation, like clusters of migrant kids who had been found working with industrial equipment or caustic chemicals. So they're taking like 14-year-old kids who are crossing the border illegally, and then they were shipping them off to guardians who ended up being, contractors with acid. As the administration scrambled to clear shelters that were strained beyond capacity, children were released with little support to sponsors who expected them to take on grueling, dangerous jobs. Amazing job, Biden administration. Just excellent, excellent job. 250,000 migrants. This is back in April. And now it's getting worse. We're supposed to be hit with Title 42's ending. We're about to be hit with 10,000 illegal migrants arriving on the border every day. 10,000 of them. And so the Biden administration is sending like 1,500 people to the border to try and help police this thing. Now, just a quick flashback. Vice President Kamala Harris, one of the least talented politicians of our era. Flashback to 2018. Donald Trump was president. He sent troops to the border to try to crack down on the illegal immigration crisis, and she said it was inappropriate at the time.
Thank the men and women who serve our military and serve in the United States Marine Corps. I also believe that the administration made a decision to deploy them based on a political agenda, and I believe that it is inappropriate to require the limited resources of the United States military to be used in such a way.
Again, now they're sending 1,500 troops to the border. By the way, Karine Jean-Pierre says, don't worry, it's all humane. She says, we'll deal with lifting Title 42 in a humane manner, says the least talented White House press secretary of all time. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be talking with Yael Eckstein, president and CEO of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, about the 75th anniversary of Israel's birth and also the great work that the IFCJ is doing. Become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.